Book 6, Part 1 of Ovid's Metamorphoses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Elizabeth Klett. Metamorphoses by Publius Ovidius Naso. Translated by Brooks Moore. Book 6, Part 1. All this Minerva heard, and she approved their songs and their resentment, but her heart was brooding thus: It is an easy thing to praise another, I should do as they. No creature of the earth should ever slight the majesty that dwells in me, without just retribution. So her thought was turned upon the fortune of Arachne, proud, who would not ever yield to her the praise won by the art of deftly weaving wool, a girl who had not fame for place of birth, nor fame for birth, but only fame for skill. For it was well known that her father dwelt in Colophon, where at his humble trade he dyed in Phocian purples fleecy wool. Her mother, also of the lower class, had died. Arachne in a mountain town by skill had grown so famous in the land of Lydia that unnumbered curious nymphs eager to witness her dexterity deserted the lush vineyards of Tmolus, or even left the cool and flowing streams of bright Pactolus to admire the cloth or to observe her deftly spinning wool. So graceful was their motion then, if she was twisting the coarse wool in little balls, or if she teased it with her fingertips, or if she softened the fine fleece, drawn forth in misty films, or if she twirled the smooth round spindle with her energetic thumb, or if with needles she embroidered cloth, in all her motions one might well perceive how much Minerva had instructed her. But this she would ever deny, displeased to share her fame, and said, "Let her contend in art with me, and if her skill prevails, I then will forfeit all." Minerva heard, and came to her, disguised with long grey hair, and with a staff to steady her weak limbs. She seemed a feeble woman, very old, and quavered as she said, "Old age is not the cause of every ill. Experience comes with lengthened years, and therefore you should not despise my words. It is no harm in you to long for praise of mortals, when your nimble hands are spinning the soft wool, but you should not deny Minerva's art, and you should pray that she may pardon you, for she will grant you pardon if you ask." Arachne, scowling with an evil face, looked at the goddess as she dropped her thread. She could hardly restrain her threatening hand, and trembling in her anger she replied to you, disguised Minerva, "Silly fool, worn out and witless in your palsied age, a great age is your great misfortune. Let your daughter and your son's wife, if the gods have blessed you, let them profit by your words. Within myself my knowledge is contained sufficient. You need not believe that your advice does any good, for I am quite unchanged in my opinion. Get you gone, advise your goddess to come here herself, and not avoid the contest." Instantly the goddess said, "Minerva comes to you," and with those brief words put aside the shape of the old woman, and revealed herself, Minerva, goddess. All the other nymphs and matrons of Mygdonia worshipped her, but not Arachne, who defiant stood, although at first she flushed up, then went pale, then blushed again, reluctant. So at first the sky suffuses, as aurora moves, and quickly when the glorious sun comes up, pales into white. She even rushed upon her own destruction, for she would not give from her desire to gain the victory. Nor did the daughter of almighty Jove decline, disdaining to delay with words, she hesitated not. And both at once selected their positions, stretched their webs with finest warp, and separated warp with slay. The woof was next inserted in the web by means of the sharp shuttles which their nimble fingers pushed along, so drawn within the warp, and so the teeth notched in the moving slay might strike them. Both in haste girded their garments to their breasts and moved their skilful arms, beguiling their fatigue in eager action. Myriad tints appeared besides the Tyrian purple, royal dye extracted in brass vessels. As the bow, that spans new glory in the curving sky, its glittering rays reflected in the rain, spreads out a multitude of blended tints, in scintillating beauty to the sight of all who gaze upon it, so the threads, inwoven, mingled in 1,000 tints, harmonious and contrasting. shot with gold, and there, depicted in those shining webs, were shown the histories of ancient days. Minerva worked the Athenian hill of Mars, where ancient Cecrops built his citadel, and showed the old contention for the name it should be given. 12 celestial gods surrounded Jupiter on lofty thrones, and all their features were so nicely drawn that each could be distinguished. Jupiter appeared as monarch of those judging gods. There Neptune, guardian of the sea, was shown contending with Minerva. As he struck the rock with his long trident, a wild horse sprang forth which he bequeathed to man. He claimed his right to name the city for that gift. And then she wove a portrait of herself, bearing a shield, and in her hand a lance, sharp-pointed, and a helmet on her head, her breast well guarded by her aegis. There she struck her spear into the fertile earth, from which a branch of olive seemed to sprout, pale with new clustered fruits. And those 12 gods appeared to judge that olive as a gift surpassed the horse which Neptune gave to man. And, so Arachne, rival of her fame, might learn the folly of her mad attempt, from the great deeds of ancient histories, and what award presumption must expect, Minerva wove 4 corners with life's scenes of contest, brightly coloured, but of size diminutive. In one of these was shown the snow-clad mountains Rhodope and Hemus, which for punishment were changed from human beings to those rigid forms when they aspired to rival the high gods. And in another corner she described that pygmy whom the angry Juno changed from queenship to crane, because she thought herself an equal of the living gods. She was commanded to wage cruel wars upon her former subjects. In the third she wove the story of Antigone, who dared compare herself to Juno, queen of Jupiter, and showed her as she was transformed into a silly chattering stork that praised her beauty with her ugly beak. Despite the powers of Ilion and her sire Laomedon, her shoulders fledged white wings. And so, the third part finished, there was left one corner, where Minerva deftly worked the story of the father, Cinyras, as he was weeping on the temple steps, which once had been his daughter's living limbs. And she adorned the border with designs of peaceful olive, her devoted tree, which having shown, she made an end of work. Arachne of Maeonia wove at first the story of Europa, as the bull deceived her, and so perfect was her art, it seemed a real bull in real waves. Europa seemed to look back towards the land which she had left, and call in her alarm to her companions, and as if she feared the touch of dashing waters, to draw up her timid feet, while she was sitting on the bull's back. And she wove Asteria seized by the assaulting eagle, and beneath the swan's white wings showed Leda lying by the stream, and showed Jove dancing as a satyr when he sought the beautiful Antiope, to whom was given twins, and how he seemed Amphitryon when he deceived Alcmena, and how he courted lovely Danae, luring her as a gleaming shower of gold, and poor Aegina, hidden in his flame, Jove as a shepherd with Mnemosyne, and beautiful Proserpina, involved by him apparent as a spotted snake. And in her web Arachne wove the scenes of Neptune, who was shown first as a bull, when he was deep in love with virgin Arne, then as Enipeus when the giant twins Eloidae were begot, and as the ram that gambolled with Bisaltis, as a horse loved by the fruitful Ceres, golden-haired, all bounteous mother of the yellow grain, and as the bird that hovered round snake-haired Medusa, mother of the winged horse, and as the dolphin, sporting with the nymph Melantho. All of these were woven true to life in proper shades, and there she showed Apollo, when disguised in various forms, as when he seemed a rustic, and as when he wore hawk wings, and then the tawny skin of a great lion, and once more when he deluded Ice as a shepherd lad. And there was Bacchus when he was disguised as a large cluster of fictitious grapes, deluding by that while the beautiful Erigone, and Saturn as a steed, begetter of the dual-natured Chiron. And then Arachne, to complete her work, wove all around the web a pattern edge of interlacing flowers and ivy leaves. Minerva could not find a fleck or a flaw. Even envy cannot censure perfect art. Enraged because Arachne had such skill, she ripped the web, and ruined all the scenes that showed those wicked actions of the gods, and with her boxwood shuttle in her hand struck the unhappy mortal on her head, struck sharply thrice, and even once again. Arachne's spirit, deigning not to brook such insult, brooded on it, till she tied a cord around her neck and hung herself. Minerva, moved to pity at the sight, sustained and saved her from that bitter death, but angry still pronounced another doom. Although I grant you life, most